There's a lot of people here. Alrighty, so now for something different. I am Dr. Gillian Judson, Gillian, and I am at PreK. Our theme at the conference is one that's really interesting to me. Place in pedagogy where learning happens. And I've been really stuck on this notion of where. For me, where does education for planetary well-being find its roots? Maybe it comes as no surprise, but I think it begins in the soil of imagination. Flashback to Outdoor Learning Conference 2024, when I introduced the idea of imagination as soil. Anybody there for that? A few of you. And yes, I'm still talking about imagination. I have 3 goals for tonight in this rapid-fire TED Talky thing. One is to try to convince you that imagination is not optional, it is essential. 2, there are tools, actually, 1.5 apparently. There are tools that cultivate imagination. I want to offer you something experiential in my short time with you, and I do not want to exceed 12 minutes. 10 minutes now. So I have an essential question I think that all educators should think about. Whether you teach K-12 or in alternative programs, I think this is essential for all educators to think about. How do we feed students' minds, and how do we nourish their imaginations? But pause. What's this got to do with our conference theme? I can hear Jade. Make sure it connects to the conference theme. Because imagination is required to create an ecologically and socially just future. What do you mean? It's a requirement? It's not just a Friday frill? Don't we all use imagination to hook the students? That's a whole other talk. I think we need to hug them with imagination. We don't hook them with imagination. But if we are going to make any changes, we need to think past what is. We need to comprehend what is outside of our own experience. This is not easy to do. We need imagination to envision and enact what is not yet, but what could be. This is really hard to do because we tend to think only with the theories we've been trained to think with. We need imagination to do otherwise. And we need imagination to care and act on behalf of the more than human world. So it really isn't optional. We're all here. Oh, hi, Carrie. Oh, hello, being recorded. How do we do this then when we know that imagination is so essential? So the good news is that there are tools we can use to cultivate imagination in all the things we're teaching. And this is important, your students' imaginations. But you have imaginations too. And so a small warning that what I'm about to do is gross, and what I'm about to show you is gross. And I could potentially offend quite a lot of people. So half of you are like, oh, I'm interested. Okay. So here we go, for something completely different. This, my friends, is the Monster Thick Burger from Hardee's. What are you hungry to know about it? You might be hungry to know how many calories this thing contains. Well, I can tell you it contains over 1,400 calories and over 107 grams of fat. But it is not the biggest hamburger on the market. For that, you can go down south of the border and get the Fat Burger's Triple Extra Large King Burger for 1,900 calories. It does look large, but it's not the largest hamburger ever made. Oh no, the largest hamburger ever made was made at Mally's Sports Bar and Grill in Detroit. It weighed over 1,700 pounds, which is a lot bigger than their regular menu 10-pound burger. Yes, 10-pound burger. But the Guinness Book World Record-breaking burger had 1,200 pounds of meat, 300 pounds of cheese and tomato, onions, and pickles. The bun was 250 pounds. Biggest ever? Potentially. Maybe you're hungry to know what this thing would cost. Well, I can tell you it is not the most expensive hamburger on the market. The most expensive hamburger on the market will cost you $5,900. It's called the Golden Boy. It's made with Dom Perignon champagne and king crab caviar and truffle and a golden case bun. You'll be happy to know maybe that the first time this burger was ever made, the chef donated all $5,900 to a local food bank and gave food to 1,000 families. Not the oddest hamburger. Would anybody try the Twinkie burger? Would anybody be interested in trying the Krispy Kreme triple cheeseburger? So there's all kinds of odd hamburgers out there. You might be craving the story, maybe, of what would happen to your body if you actually ate one of these things. So I could pull a Ms. Frizzle. Who's old enough to know who Ms. Frizzle is? There we go. And we could shrink down and enter the human mouth and experience firsthand that rush of inundation of saliva as it comes and it overwhelms us, and we could experience moving into the bloodstream and seeing how that food calorie energy is broken down into units like glucose by cell mitochondria. Maybe. That could be interesting. Maybe you're interested in the history of this thing, this monstrosity. Because I learned that way back in the 12th and 13th centuries, Genghis Khan and his army actually ate early hamburgers. They went on horseback for days on end, and they rarely would have time to stop and cook the meat. So before they went out on horseback, they'd take scrapings of lamb and mutton, roll them into patties, and then they just slide those right under the saddles of the horses. And hours, if not days later, they'd eat those bad boys, and they would be suitably tenderized against the back of the horse. But, like, maybe you find this really grotesque. Like, it really revolts you. Like, I know that it grosses me out. It does, and that's partly why I'm showing it to you. You might be feeling this tension between healthy and unhealthy, or you feel an unsettling sense of gluttony, as represented by this massive bit of food, when you know there's so much starvation in the world. You might now feed on a sense of idealism, perhaps theories of carnivorism, vegetarianism, or veganism. Ethically, what does this burger say about animal rights? Nutritionally, what does it say about our health system? And environmentally, the ecological impact of meat production has been well documented. Did you know that in the United States alone, to feed the need for beef, about 337 billion pounds of carbon dioxide are emitted every year. Every year, which is equivalent to about 32.3 million cars, just to produce enough hamburgers. So what do we value more? Our hamburgers or wildlife? Once a burger hits your plate, it has done substantial damage to the environment and wildlife. Meat production causes habitat loss, land and water pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. So educators, to the question of how do we feed the mind and nourish the imaginations of our students, we need to acknowledge that our students do come to our classrooms hungry. There was something I said tonight that had you lean in a little bit about this. Maybe you lit up a little bit more. Maybe you actually like the look of this hamburger, and that's great. But human beings love to learn, and unfortunately in schools we've gotten to the business of coercing children into learning. Learners of all ages have active, emotional, and imaginative lives. So my aim in potentially grossing you out tonight was to have you experience for yourselves what that means to be a little bit imaginatively engaged. The features of imagination that evoked your imaginations tonight are not hooks for learning. They're actually powerful tools at the heart of all learning. So we could replace the topic of hamburgers with anything else. We could replace it, for example, with mosses or invertebrates or democracy or climate change or butterflies or cooking or composting. It doesn't matter. There's all kinds of subjects. You can feed your students with the story form, feeding their imaginations with extremes and limits of reality, the odd and the bizarre, the human stories, wonder and emotion. These are the ways in which human cultures have developed. These are tools we can use actively if we want to cultivate imagination. The last bite. It's neurobiologically impossible to learn anything without engaging emotion and imagination. So now I want you to notice this lovely carrot. For anyone who really is not happy with me, I wanted to switch the tone. But we are all imaginative beings. So there are practical ways to feed imagination. So please remember, if you remember one thing tonight, the girl with the gross hamburger on the slide, is that your students come to your classrooms hungry for knowledge, and there are tools we can use to feed them. Because the change we seek to see in the world is a seed that we plant in the soil of imagination. So consider this. How do you cultivate imagination in your work? Feel free to cheer now. Check out this podcast. And thank you.